This is the very first art journal I've completed, and I thought you might like to see it a little bit more slowly than this and see the techniques I've used in it. My name's Liz Chatterton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share a tip, trick, or technique I wish I'd known about ages ago. But this week I want to take you through my art journal that I've been working on for the last 6 months. It's looking a bit battered. It is a handmade journal, but really that's the only bit that's falling to pieces, and it has taken a lot of abuse. And I've even cleaned my desk for you. If you ever see any of my films, you know what a mucky pup I am. So this was the very first journal page I ever did, and it was part of a workshop with a wonderful artist called Lally Mill. She does free workshops, she does paid workshops. If you ever get a chance to do something with her, she's really inspiring. And I was so sniffy about art journaling before I did that workshop, and I utterly fell in love with it. This is all a bit busy and a bit too pretty for my taste, but my taste has developed as I've gone along. So being fired with enthusiasm, I started to try and develop my own style. So this was the very first journal page that I did purely from my own thoughts, and there's collage, there's watercolor, there's texturing with salt in there, there's bits of stenciling, there's all sorts I threw at it, and I did a whole film about this and how I developed it. And then this was a bit of an experiment with making pockets and seeing whether that was something I wanted to do with my journal, sort of take it more into the paper craft side of things. And to be honest, I haven't done that much of this. I think I want to keep more as the art journal technique exploration rather than doing clever things with paper. But this was all about growing our dreams, and I did enjoy making just little envelopes and things like that. That's where I'm going to put the little seeds of my dreams and let them grow. I've used my journal as well for samples, for ideas. So these were different ways with stencils. Utterly have fallen in love with stencils. So that's a lifting out. That was applying glue through a stencil and then gold leafing, applying, I think that was sort of like mica dust. This is modelling paste applied through a stencil, which I love. That's sponging and splattering. And I've got a whole film about stenciling if you fancy it. I went back to do another online workshop with Lally Mill, and this was exploring colourways, obviously in my case blue. Those were little samples I did, and I liked them so much that I sort of cut them out and put them in my journal. This was done actually for a magazine article because I wanted to share my enthusiasm. I must say this journal isn't in date order, just so you know, but I did this, and this article's appeared in the Leisure Painter magazine in March 24 edition, which actually is out in January 24. And it was all about the new year with new hopes and thinking ahead to the future. That was my inspiration. You can see the date of this. So I was exploring how I might combine my love of urban sketching with this newfound love of journaling and mixed media and collage. And we visited York, and I've collected bits of junk, so like the Yorkshire tea bag packet, there's a map that we got from the tourist place, there's a ticket somewhere in here, and combined all those and thought, oh, this has got potential. And I explored image transfers because after York we went up to Newcastle, so image transfers and working those in. And again, there's a film all about that I'll link. This was on another workshop with a great artist, Karen, who was talking about using collage and integrating it with sketches, and I was like, oh yeah, I get that, I really enjoy that. So I took it forward and did some sort of collaging and then some sketching on top. These are two scenes from York. So I'm really using my art journal to explore new techniques as well as emotions and thoughts and creative messy play. This spread, yeah, not all things are black and white. I wanted to calm things down, having been quite colourful, but I couldn't resist a little bit of colour, could I? And again, I'm just exploring new techniques, whether it be, again, stenciling, collaging, stamping, using the transparency of tissue paper with stamping. That's modelling paste through a stencil. Just exploring. I went on another workshop. You never stop learning, and it's wonderful to learn from other artists. This was Tessa Pearson, who is a watercolourist mixed media, and she uses a lot of sort of wax resist. So some of these are sort of resist marks, some of them are just patterns. I got introduced to the joy of woody pencils, so that's in there. Oh, that was an experiment with image transfer, working out what was working for me, more little samples and experiments. So I like the fact my journal is a real mix of little samples and then things where I put those sort of methods into practice. Love this. So walk as if you're kissing the earth with your feet. And I used stenciling in gold leaf and bits of doodling and napkins and hand lettering and yeah, whole pile of fun. And again, I was a little bit sniffy about my ability to do brush lettering because my handwriting isn't great, but it's coming on, so there's practice and that's great. And I wanted this to be a more stylized piece. I've got again a whole film about how I did this spread, so I'll put a link, and it was all inspired by this wonderful moon. Just before Christmas, we were lucky enough to go to Iceland to see the Northern Lights, and they were not this bright, but these were a couple of, so these are pure watercolour and explorations of techniques to get the Northern Lights and that lovely flow of colour. I spent a really nice day with a very good friend of mine, introducing her to all the techniques I'd discovered and developed. And I got her to do some little samples like this, exploring a particular colour. So I was doing orange, as you may have guessed, and I showed her how to collage and then paint, and that's some modelling paste and printing and bits of writing and all sorts. I'm a member of the Henley Arts and Crafts Guild, and they asked me to do a workshop day introducing people to mixed media techniques. So that was the piece I did as my demonstration to them. Fairly much based on that earlier sun piece that I showed you. And oh, they did some brilliant work, really good. This was actually the last page that I did and have completed, and it was a celebration of all the slurpy animals that loiter in the undergrowth. So snails and beetles and ants and all the little things that actually are crucial to our world. And this piece actually, oh, I did probably a couple of months ago, and I was feeling a bit overwhelmed with life. So this was very much a message to me that I am enough. I can do what I can do, and I can do no more. So I rather like that. And it's funny, I look back at this, I used lots of dressmaking patterns that I just bought from the local charity shop because I thought I really liked the transparency and the writing and things. And it's quite funny because actually all the measurements are here and it's that sort of physicality, but it's I'm enough. I think that actually fits in message wise rather nicely, and I didn't see that at the time. So it's funny how you look back and you think, oh, that's what was going on in my head. Final page. and this was just an exploration of pink, which is not my favourite colour, but look what I'm wearing today, so I do tone. Doing these little samples where you can basically produce the same background, which was all collage, and then finish them off in different ways is just such a nice way to explore and to fill a page. So that is my very first art journal, but it will not be my last, because look what I've been making. Sometimes it's quite nice to do something quite crafty. I made this journal, but I had a yen to have a circular book, so I have made one. It's not perfect if you look closely, I promise, but just out of, this was some really hideous watercolour paper I've had for ages, and a few boards, I've made a circular art journal. Yes, so my next adventure is going to be in circles, and I thought that would be great fun. And I put the tie on because, just as you've seen, this has got thicker and thicker as I've gone through. This, I reckon, by the time I finish, is going to look like that, so the tie will keep it together. So do come back and join me and see how we get on in that. And I hope that's inspired you to do some art journaling. Gosh, in the period of about 6 months, I've gone from being very skeptical back to just loving it and finding it such an exciting way of exploring new techniques as well as thoughts and emotions.